All right, here we go. Lesson 4.R.1, order of operations. So there has been this math problem on social media that has been driving people absolutely up. I'm going to show you how to work it out and get to the answer so you can make all your friends look like morons. I don't know if I can say that, like if that's socially acceptable, but anyway, whatever. Let's say it. Moving on. So the problem is 8 divided by 2. And then notice the 2 plus 2 is in parentheses and it's being multiplied times 2. We'll get to that in a second. Let's first talk about the order of operations. All right, so the order of operations is a list of, well, whatever. You've seen it before, I hope. If you haven't, we say PEMDAS. All right. The P in PEMDAS, or PEMDAS, or however you want to pronounce it, is for parentheses. So let me just write that, parentheses. We do what's in the parentheses first. Like this over here, we would do 2 plus 2 first, although normally addition is toward the bottom. But we would do the addition first because it's in the parentheses. I'll make a statement further about that in a little while about action happening in the parentheses, but for now, know that there is addition in the parentheses, and we would do that first in this case. Moving on. E stands for exponents. So that would be like if we had a number like 3 squared, right? We would do the square, which means this actually means 3 times itself. That's what 3 squared means. It means 2 3s multiplied. And 3 times 3 is 9, okay? So exponents would be our second thing to do in the order of operations. There's no exponents in this question. This is where students get confused. Multiplication and division. Now here's the problem. Between this 2 and this parenthesis, there's no symbol, so that means multiplication. Here we have division. Here's the thought. A lot of people think that PEMDAS means that multiplication comes before division. It doesn't necessarily. We judge multiplication and division depending upon which one comes first as we go left to right. Now that's tricky. A lot of people don't realize that. We divide in this problem before we multiply. The reason, again, is because multiplication and division are judged as equals. Okay, so whichever one comes first as we read the problem left to right is the one we perform first. Later on, after we do multiplication and division, addition and subtraction, they actually do the same thing as multiplication and division because just like multiplication and division, addition and subtraction are equals. So they're equals, right? So whichever one comes first as they travel left to right. Now let's answer this question over here, the one that's been bothering people on social media. You'd be surprised how many former students I have will tag me on Facebook or Instagram and say, Coach, what's the number? Settle this for us, right? I coach, so sorry. Moving on. Here we go. Again, we do the parentheses first. So now we have 8 divided by 2 times 4, because 2 plus 2 is 4. Let's continue. Again, I'll read it one more time. 8 divided by 2 times 4. We have 2 actions occurring, division, divided by, and times, multiplication. Which one do we do? What does our rule say? Multiplication and division, we do whichever comes first as we read the problem left to right. 8 divided by. So we'll divide these 2. Now, what's 8 divided by 2? 4. And now we finish it off. 4 times 4, which is 16. So if you're one of those people who've been trying to figure this out, the answer is 16. A lot of people are getting 1, and let me explain why. Not knowing this rule, that multiplication and division is judged left to right, a lot of people just think multiplication comes first, right? So right here, they multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. And then they would have 8 divided by 8, and 8 divided by 8 is 1. So the two primary answers are either 16 or 1. 1 is not the correct answer. That's one thing I like about math, right? There's only one right answer. So you can't just say, oh, it could be this one or that one. False. The answer is 16. So make sure you tell your friends, and look, you can justify it now too. This is why. Okay, let's move on. Let's do some more practice. All right, so what if we had an example like this one? Matter of fact, before we go into more order of operations, I want to make a point. If we had -3 squared versus -3 squared, what's the real difference, right? It's the same statement. Let me say it again. -3 squared versus -3 squared. Wait, hold up, what? With the parentheses here, this means this whole thing, so -3 times -3. Well, -3 times -3, and negative times a negative is a positive 9. This is different. Here, the negative is not squared. We don't multiply the negative twice, just the 3. So it would be -3 times 3. Notice the difference? Here we have a negative times a negative. Here we only have one negative, so our answer is -9. See the difference? So there is a difference in these two statements. The parentheses do matter. So make sure that when you're using your calculator, you put the parentheses when appropriate. All right. You okay over there? Shame on you. You ate way too much candy. All right. So let's go ahead and look at Hawks for some more examples. Go ahead. Muchas gracias. I greatly appreciate it. Oh, that's a pretty big screen up there. 3 times 2, what does it say? Minus 20 divided by 2. Okay, so here we go. We got 3 times 2 minus 20 divided by 2. Let's follow our order of operations. Notice there are no parentheses. The P does not come into play here. Neither the exponents, right? Do you see any exponents? Any little exponents up here or here? Nope, none. Let's go to multiplication division. Remember, we read them left to right. So we can do the 3 times 2 first, and then the 20 divided by 2. 3 times 2 is 6 minus 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now we simply go to the bottom. Addition, subtraction. There's no addition, so we can just subtract. 6 minus 10. 6 minus 10, the answer is -4. Also, a minus sign can be converted to plus a negative. I don't know if you've seen that before, but it would be 6 plus -10. And the rule here is when we're adding unlike terms, right? I got a positive and I'm adding it to a negative. We subtract and keep the sign of the number that's further from 0. So here's our 4. 6 minus 10, or 10 minus 6 is 4. But we keep the sign of the 10 because 10 is further away from 0 than 6 is. Okay, that's one way to explain it, I guess. Next example. Skip. Process. All right, we did one like this, right? So in this case, we have -6 squared. Notice the pause in the way I said that. Pause, ready? Negative, pause, 6 squared. So the negative stays, and 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. All right, what in the world is going on with this question? This looks absolutely ridiculous. Here it is. The absolute value of -1.5, we talked about absolute value before, times 2.6 minus 6.2 times 1.6. All right, I am going to need my calculator. So here we go. First things first, let's make some adjustments. Parentheses, right? We're going to treat this sort of like parentheses, sort of. Absolute value needs to be calculated first. So the absolute value of negative 1.5, remember, is always the positive version of that same number. So this becomes 1.5. All right, let's continue. I got multiplication, subtraction, multiplication. That's all that's left. Order of operations says multiplication comes before subtraction. So we must do both the multiplications before the subtraction. I'm going to bring my minus sign down. Let's multiply these two numbers and also those two numbers. 1.5 times 2.6 is 3.9. And 6.2 times 1.6 is 9.92. Okay, so now we've got 3.9 minus 9.92. We need to do our subtraction again. When we're adding opposite signs, we subtract and then keep the sign of the larger. Larger is a bad word, so don't use that, I'm sorry. That's the way we used to say it. Keep the sign of the number further from 0. 9 point anything is further from 0 than 3 point anything is. So let's subtract 3.9 minus 9.92, and we get our final answer of negative 6.02. Final answer. All right, next example. Here it is, absolute value of 15 minus 21. Bracket 33 divided by, why are these problems so interesting? Okay, 5 minus 2, close the absolute value, minus 3 squared, close the bracket. All right, we got a lot to discuss on this problem, and that's okay. Let me get on, see a little bit better. Okay, remember, let's go ahead and calculate our absolute value situations first. The absolute value of 15 minus 21, that's the same thing as the absolute value of negative 6, right? So what is the absolute value of negative 6? It's positive 6. All right, now let's calculate this one. The absolute value of 5 minus 2 is 3, so the absolute value of 3 is just 3. Okay, I'm going to make a statement here. See these brackets? They're treated the same way that we treat parentheses. So we're going to do everything inside the parentheses before we touch this 6 again. Let's look inside the parentheses. I see division, subtraction, and an exponent. So the exponent goes first, right? 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. Notice I'm just going to keep rewriting this thing until I get to where I want to be. So 3 squared became 9. Let's continue. I have division and I have subtraction. Division comes first. 33 divided by 9. I'm sorry, that was wrong. 33 divided by 3 is 11. So here we go. 6. 33 divided by 3 is 11 minus 9. All right, I'm going to have to start going sideways because I'm running out of space over here. 6. Let's finish off the brackets. Remember, the brackets are parentheses. We're still trying to figure out what's in the parentheses before we can move on. 11 minus 9 is 2. So we have 6. What happens when there's no symbol in between here? That means multiplication. So 6 times 2 is all of that, and our final answer is 12. At least it wasn't 0. Next question. All right, so similar question, -2. Notice they put parentheses around the -2. That's what I want to talk about. Times 3 plus -29 divided by -1. All right. So earlier I mentioned the word action, right? So in this question, there are 3 sets of parentheses, but none of them have action occurring inside of them. Look at this one. This one says -2 in the parentheses. There's no action. It's not like 1 minus 2. It's just -2. -29, again, no action, and -1, no action. So those do not follow the parenthesis rule in PEMDAS, however you say it. Exponent, no exponent. So what mathematical steps do we have? We have multiplication, we have addition, and we have division. Remember, the addition is going to be last out of these 3. Multiplication and division occur as we see them left to right. This is further left, so we'll multiply first, then we'll divide. Let's multiply now. -2 times 3 is -6. -29 divided by -1, a negative divided by a negative follows the negative times a negative rule. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 29 divided by 1 is just 29, right? Anything divided by 1 is itself, whatever it was to begin with. If I got 5 pizzas and 1 person, I get all 5. I know I'm silly. Moving on. -6 plus 29. -6 plus 29, remember that can be written as subtraction. So we would subtract 29 minus 6, which is 23. And we would keep the sign of the number that's further away from 0. 29 is further from 0, and it's positive, so this 23 is positive. Opposite signs, subtract, keep the number of the sign of the number further from 0. Next question. All right, so we may not have time to go through all of the questions just because I want to keep these lessons fairly short. Let's talk this one out without having to switch the screens. So what I see is -8 plus -1 inside brackets. Remember, brackets act as parentheses, so we got to do that first. Normally, we do multiplication before addition, but because the addition's in the parenthesis, bracket, same thing. We do that first. -8 plus -1, that's kind of like that money situation, right? If you are in debt or owe $8 already and you borrow another $1, now you owe 9. So -9 is the result of adding those two. Now we multiply that -9 times 7. A negative times a positive is a negative, and 9 times 7 is 63. All right. Let's just talk this one out again, but let's be cautious with it. Actually, no, we're going to have to work this one out. There's a lot of negative signs. So I got a -8 minus bracket, -6 plus parenthesis, 1 times 2 minus 8, close bracket, and divided by -6. Let me make sure I wrote all that down. Negative, negative, negative here, negative there. Okay. All right, so again, this time we got a bracket and parentheses. Do the innermost first. So we're going to deal with this, then spread to this, then go outside. So I'm going to bring these two down. -8 minus bracket, -6 plus what goes on in here? Well, I'm going to skip a step. but I'm going to say it out loud instead of writing it. 1 times 2 minus 8, we multiplied, then subtract. 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 minus 8 is negative 6. Now, I kept the parentheses around the negative 6 just so that my plus and my minus sign would be distinguishable. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just divide these two? But we can't because this negative 6 is inside another set of parentheses. It's a bracket, but same thing. So negative 8 minus, all right, what's going on here? Negative 6 plus negative 6 is negative 12. So now we finally got into a good place, right? A happy place where we have this, no action here. So what's our only two math steps left? Minus and divide. We divide first. So negative 8 minus negative 12 divided by negative 6. A negative divided by a negative is a positive 2. Now I know it looks like a negative 2 here, but this minus sign came from here, not from the work we did here. All right, let's get our final answer. Negative 8 minus 2 more, or we could do it like that, negative 10. So our final answer, after all that work, is negative 10. Okay, so this problem looks to be a little bit on the evil side. Let's try it anyway. 2 tenths times 4/6 minus 5 tenths times 4 tenths. Okay. Here we go. Okay, there's two ways we can do this. One, we can straight up multiply, and then find the common denominator and subtract, right? We've learned those skills in the past. I'm going to make a point here, or I'm going to suggest that we reduce everything first and then see what happens. 2 tenths, the 2 and the 10 both reduce by 2 to make 1 and 5, so we have 1/5. 4/6 reduces by 2 each to make 2 over 2. Sorry, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3, minus 5 tenths is 1/2, and 4 tenths is 2/5. All right, let's see if we can simplify further. Let's see what happens. Multiplication here, multiplication there, subtraction in the middle. Remember, subtraction is last according to our order of operations. So let's do our 2 sets of multiplication. 1 does not reduce with either the 5 or the 3. 2 also doesn't reduce with either of them. So multiply across, we get 1 times 2, and 5 times 3 is 15. Minus, let's reduce here. Oh, look. Well, that was nice, wasn't it? 1 times 1 is 1 over 1 times 5 is 5. Now we can find our common denominator and subtract. Do we agree that 5, if we multiply it by 3, can become 15? So if we multiply the 5 and the 1 by 3, that'll give us, keep the 2/15, sorry, minus 3/15. We're almost done, right? Because we have a common denominator, we keep our denominator. Y'all are not spacing on time, right? It is what it is. 2 minus 3 can be written as 2 plus negative 3, if you want to. And the answer to that is -1. So our final answer is -1 over 15. Y'all, that was a lot, and I'm sorry, but I told you at the beginning the problem was evil. For the record, I didn't make up any of these problems. All right, so let's just talk through this one really quickly. I see addition, I see multiplication, and I see division. We remember addition is last out of these three. Multiplication and division occur as we see them left to right. Multiplication comes first here. So 2 times -5 is -10. Plus 4 divided by 2 is 2. So -10 plus 2 is -8. All right, so we got this one. And I'm going to try to cut this lesson short, so we'll have only maybe 1 or 2 more examples. So we have 2 times -3 plus -4 minus 4 divided by 4 squared. Okay, we got a lot going on, and look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4s back to back to back. 3 4s in a row. Here we go. 2 times parentheses, right? Squared. We can't do the exponent until we execute all of the parentheses. Man, it's about to kick me on this lesson. All right, so let's go ahead and execute the parentheses. I see plus, minus, divide. We have to divide first, right? Let's do that. So we're going to divide right here. Notice I did not underline that minus sign. So 2 times parenthesis -3 plus -4 minus, what's 4 divided by 4? 1. Okay, let's keep on going. Addition and subtraction, we do them as we see them left to right. So -3 plus -4 is -7. -7 minus 1 is -8. So this brings us to a point that we made earlier. -8 squared, when it's grouped in a parenthesis, or in this case a bracket, which is the same thing, we have to say -8 times -8. And a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So now we have 2 times -8 squared is positive 64. We did our exponent. We can finish it off with this multiplication. 128 is our final answer because 2 times 64 is 128. And I just noticed I did that whole problem small. So I hope you can see it. It's okay, watch this. Y'all heard me, right? I hope you heard me. All right, pause your screen if you need to write it down. Don't pause it with me making that face though. All right, let's see if we have time to maybe sneak one more problem in before this thing kicks me off. All right, let's see. Absolute value of 17 minus 22. 17 minus 22 is -5, so the absolute value of that is just plain 5. Times bracket, which serves as parentheses. You got all this action happening inside of here. Do the absolute value first. 6 minus 3 is 3. Absolute value of that is just plain 3. Minus 2 squared. 2 squared, we have to do that before we divide or subtract, so 2 squared is 4. So in the parentheses now we have, brackets, we have 33 divided by 3 minus 4. Division comes before subtraction, so 33 divided by 3 is 11, and 11 minus 4 is 7. Rewind. Absolute value up here gave us 5, and 5 times 7 is 35. I know that was a lot of talking, but again, I'm running out of time, so I wanted to make sure I got that to you. All right. So the rest of these problems work pretty much the same way as all the ones we've previously done, right? We see an absolute value, we see multiplication over here, and subtraction in the middle. Again, it's the same thing, but with fractions, right? We did one like this, so I'm not going to waste too much time. We would multiply first, then divide, get a solution from all of that. Then we have a fraction plus this solution, which is a fraction, plus another fraction. And we would have to find common denominators again. I know it looks scary, but once you take your time with it and break it down, it's really not too bad. Okay, that one's just too easy. You would multiply first, divide, and then subtract their totals. All right, similarly, we would do the parentheses first, 8, square that, which is 64. Multiply, 9 times 1 is 9, minus 64 is negative 55. And that's it. All right. And I'm going to be signing off. So thank you very much. And I hope that we benefited from this lesson.